Ecological or environmental racism is very much prominent in the Bay Area, and too often, hazardous waste facilities, sanitary landfills, refineries, and other polluting industries have been cited in poor communities that affect working class people of color. West Oakland is an unfortunate example of a community that has disproportionately been affected by these living conditions in comparison to other parts of the Bay Area. In this short documentary, we'll discuss how issues surrounding housing, food spatialization, air quality, gentrification, and overall quality of life have been affected by environmental racism through institutional means.
Environmental racism is actually a form of systemic racism where practices and policies put in place by the government disproportionately affect marginalized communities. In West Oakland, policies like redlining and the government's decision to create 880 freeway in West Oakland Park displaced many people of color and lower income residents. We were able to sit down and speak with Professor Cesar Rodriguez, who's an ethnic studies teacher here at SF State. Here are some of his thoughts on how these communities have been specifically affected.
My name is Cesar Rodriguez. My nickname is Chem. So when it comes to West Oakland, just some things that come to top of mind, like because that was close to the port, because that was close to the rails, working class people of color were recruited, and even some European immigrants were recruited to come and live and work to work in those industries, to work at the ports, to work at the rail yards, and to work at the factories. The factories being close to that hub. Yeah. And working class people of color and other European immigrant groups, before they were able to join whiteness, were effectively quarantined into West Oakland. You know what I mean? To keep them close to the sites of work, but also to separate them from other areas.
Racist policies and practices like these reinforce a cycle of marginalization and lack of investment while continuing to expose these communities to harmful toxins and unhealthy living conditions at the same time.
For example, the spatialization of food in West Oakland makes it easier to stay diabetic, obese, and drunk rather than purchasing fresh food. A 2010 study found a supermarket for every 93,000 residents in Oakland's Flatlands versus one for every 13,000 residents in the Oakland Hills. An adult in West Oakland will be 5 times more likely to be hospitalized for diabetes, 2 times more likely to die of a stroke, and twice as likely to die of heart disease, and twice as likely to die of cancer. If you're born in West Oakland, you can expect to die almost 15 years earlier than a white person born in the Oakland Hills.
Additionally, infrastructure such as shipping ports, factories, and highways has made the air quality in West Oakland much worse than surrounding neighborhoods. At least 41% of Black residents and 33% of Latinos in West Oakland lived within 500 feet of a heavy-use freeway. Due to their proximity to the Port of Oakland and rail yards, West Oakland residents breathe air that contains 3 times more diesel exhaust particles than the rest of the Bay Area. Children are particularly vulnerable to developing asthma due to such pollution.
The industrial backbone of capitalism, it needs to take place. Yeah. You know what I mean? It has to materialize in a certain place, right? And because of its byproducts, the pollution it creates, the traffic it creates, the noise that is a result of it, here in the United States, those property values are going to be lower because living there is less desirable. Mm-hmm. Because the way that race intersects with class, we oftentimes work in jobs that don't pay us the same kinds of ways that allow us to afford better housing stock, to rent more desirable, or even buy in more desirable areas. So oftentimes we're segregated into areas that are closer to industrial, in part because of the contemporary property values, but also because of the historical legacy of redlining. You know what I mean?
In recent years, West Oakland's residential population has been subjected to displacement via gentrification. Wealthier individuals moving into West Oakland and building quote-unquote more desirable luxury housing, which makes rental prices and property taxes much more expensive for a historically low-income neighborhood. This then prices out long-term working-class residents of color who have systematically been placed there.
You know what I mean? Or what's called the revenge city. They'll come back and start to reinvest capital into neighborhoods that were historically abandoned by capital. What happens, unfortunately, the development of housing isn't meant for working class people that exist there right now. it's meant to accumulate more wealth. So the cost of renting an apartment there is prohibitively expensive for people in that neighborhood. Or if they build them into condos, they'll do these little small like nonsense set asides, like, oh, we have some affordable housing. There's hell rules.
Yeah.
It's still too expensive for the people who live there to kind of get in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like they set aside some, but it's not enough to house the community that already live there.
As we can see from this video, West Oakland has been subject to environmental racism through systematic forms like racist policies, infrastructure, food spatialization, and gentrification. To close out this video, we'd like to acknowledge a few ways on how to help fight back against environmental racism in West Oakland and in your community.
Firstly, protest racist policies being implemented in your city and push for new policies that fight for environmental justice. Second, if you're able to, taking the bus and supporting public transit is another great way to keep your community healthy. And lastly, educating your community and people around you about policies and practices that negatively affect everybody's health. We chose to do this video because we both grew up in Oakland, and I feel like there's not a lot of documentation on it, so we were happy to provide just a little bit. And
We love our community, we love giving back to our community, so we are very hyped to be able to choose this topic for our presentation project. Big thank you to Cesar Che Rodriguez.
Thank you. Thanks for
great
all for you
professor,
watching.
and thank you to Professor Mallory Redmond for
Yeah.
letting us choose this topic.
Thank you.